Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Brendan Heegan. He is the founder and CEO at Boxzooka, and I gotta say, I love that name. So we're going to talk about Boxzooka, what it is that they do. We're going to dive a little bit into why they chose to develop their own WMS, and then talk a little bit about the holiday season and overall the e-commerce fulfillment landscape and where things are heading as we go into the next year. So, Brendan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely happy to get you on here and hear a little bit about Boxzooka, which I got to ask first. I mean, where did that name come from? It's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, thank you. I want to have a really good story around it. Like I was dreaming about, boxes coming out of a cannon or something, and unfortunately that's not the case. I wanted the word box in the name, and I worked with a developer, programmer, creative guy at the time, and he had this algorithm that he was able to put together a whole list of names that began with box and ended with box, and he spit them out. We just started saying them out loud. And then checking the domains to see what was available. Yeah, I think we wanted like Boxwalla or Boxzilla or something. And those domains were taken, and then Boxzooka came up, and it didn't roll off the tongue exactly as smooth, but the domain was available, and it was done. Next thing I had to go tackle.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really interesting name. It's pretty cool. It definitely caught my attention the first time I saw it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of, I guess, what Boxzooka is, and also as you're the founder, like a little bit about your background and how you kind of came to the idea of Boxzooka.
Sure. So we are a e-commerce and B2B distribution 3PL. We tend to specialize in fashion and CPG, more higher end or nicer type products that the brands that we service require an elevated unboxing experience and just an elevated experience overall, from our customer service to the boots on the ground in the warehouses and the service levels that we provide. So that's been our model. It serves us well. And I guess my background that brought me here, I come from an extensive background of transportation logistics. I was with Airborne Express. If folks are old enough to remember who that was, we were acquired by DHL in 2001 or so, somewhere around there. I was at DHL for a number of years, and I was on the small parcel side, on the global forwarding side of DHL, which is air freight and ocean freight. And later I worked for a 3PL, and so I've learned this side of the business as well. At some point, it made sense. I wanted to get out and start my own thing, and I didn't actually set out to do a 3PL. It's very cost prohibitive to open up warehouses, and I started out with a software. It was a software to do international landed costs for online retailers. And we were successful at it and had a few brands, and the demand started to present itself amongst our customer base. Hey, this is great. Can you do our domestic fulfillment too? And I was like, I know how to do that. I didn't think I was going to do that. And that's how we evolved and pivoted into a 3PL.
Interesting. Okay. So it's kind of started with the tech first. So that kind of, I guess, leads into my next question. I was just going to ask you, I mean, why the choice to develop your own WMS there to be able to do that fulfillment?
Yeah, sure. So that's an easy question to answer. I think half the technology was there when we were doing the international landed costs. We were already an OMS, an order management system, and we were a TMS, a transportation management system. So being able to develop the logic around fulfillment, inventory management, returns processing, pick, pack, and ship, it was relatively easy enough. And the fact of the matter is that I looked at the landscape, the 3PL landscape at the time, and it's still like that today a little bit, where a lot of 3PLs use off the shelf systems, that third party systems, that they're handcuffed to whatever that system can or cannot do. And we have engineers that sit on site at our headquarters in New Jersey, and they're constantly enhancing the system as our operators, request to be able to do things, and our clients are constantly pivoting and bolting on new middlewares, whether it be a return solution provider, or they want some sort of special logic around being able to monogram items and send it off to a third party or something. We can do all that stuff in-house, the light speed, fast, and much at a lower cost and faster than if we were using off the shelf system. So for us, that's what was one of the keys to our early success, to be able to be flexible and nimble, and that's who we are still today.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's an interesting way to go. And totally makes sense from the perspective of that you're talking about, and being able to make those changes, not only internally when you see that there's a need for that, but also from, like you mentioned, the brand's perspective too. Like a brand is looking to do something differently, or maybe they want to handle something differently. You're able to kind of take that and, like you said, not be tied to that WMS company, and, try to ask them like, hey, can you do this for us? And they'll be like, we don't see the use case, right? Something like that. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's also like it's a testament to our ability to service our brands too, where we find efficiency in data, and so we constantly are looking for new ways in the data to be able to be faster and be more efficient. And then we can tweak our batching and our waving and everything that we do within our WMS to be servicing our clients better.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I mean, so is your WMS something that other 3PLs can use, or is that like your secret sauce?
No, absolutely. We do license it. Can't name any names of who uses it, because we end up putting their name on it. We white label it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. Give us a call.
Okay, definitely. So yeah, very interesting to learn about that and kind of the Boxzooka story there a little bit. So as we're recording this, and actually I want to ask you one more thing that you mentioned in there around you mentioned about an elevated unboxing experience, right, that you provide to the brand. So tell us a little bit, kind of, I mean, what does that mean from like a 3PL perspective, but then also from the brand and the consumer perspective as well, and what's maybe like an example of that?
Sure. So that was another one of the things that I saw in the 3PL landscape when I set out to do this, and I said I want to replicate everything I saw that was really good out there, and then fill in the gaps and everything I thought were 3PLs fell short. And one of them was that a lot of 3PLs are kind of in the no business. No, we can't do that. No, you can't do that. And I wanted to be flexible and accommodating. And with our brands, each one of them is specific in how they're representing themselves, and whether it be dust bags and over top, shoes and dust bags, or garments and dust bags, or tissue and closing it with a sticker and a handwritten gift note, and it could be anything. The requests that we get for how that pack out should look, how that unboxing experience should be served to the customer, they're different from each one of our brands. And we have SOPs, which are standard operating procedure documents, that train our employees on what that brand experience is supposed to look like. And we have a quality assurance team that checks orders that were already packed, a percentage of those, to make sure that that the orders that they check are the way they're supposed to look. And it's an elevated experience. This isn't the 3PL where it's like, we're just throwing t-shirts in a poly bag and doing that all day long. And we're in the brand protection business, as something I like to say sometimes. Yeah. And we're the eyes, the first set of eyes on the product that comes in from overseas. And we're the last set of eyes on it before it goes to a consumer. And there's a lot of trust in what we do from our clients.
Interesting. Yeah. And I love that you said that you're that kind of protection with the consumer, because I mean, like you said, you are the last one that's going to touch that and have some type of impact on that order before it gets to the consumer. So it's awesome that you're able to offer that service and help to elevate that experience, as you mentioned additionally. So, I mean, when we look at special packaging and, things of that nature, we get into some of the holiday season here, which we're approaching now, November 2nd. It's crunch time as we're recording this, right? So tell us a little bit about, how do you see things from your end and from the market overall as we are heading into the holiday season this year?
Sure. I think the holiday season is kind of stretched out more than it ever has been in the past. Yeah. And it started probably around COVID when there was a big risk of the carriers networks being totally bottlenecked with packages, and brands got smart and started doing Black Friday sales earlier. And then also competing for the share of wallet of their customers against, whoever their competitors are, and trying to get those sales made earlier in the month. Mm-hmm. So it's like Black Friday is like the whole month of November. We're I think we're rounding out the calm before the storm, and things are starting to pick up, as we speak. And as I attend forecast calls with the team and our clients, the next couple of weeks is a steady upward trajectory towards Christmas. We usually start to calm down probably like around mid-December. Mm. Everyone gets their shopping done. Yeah. And it's a good time. Mm. We like being busy.
Yeah. Busy is certainly good when you're in the 3PL business, for sure. So, I mean, around the holiday season, and we talked about that kind of unboxing experience, do you see like kind of brands doing certain customizations or changes to their packaging in ways to deliver things that may be intended as like Christmas gifts or something like that?
Yeah, totally. Because a couple of the CPG brands specifically will do like holiday kits, and they'll have us, pre-kit thousands of components that you marry up these 2 or 3 items and put it in this box with, some sort of holiday looking confetti type material, and then close it with a ribbon, stuff like that. Some of the other brands will have some sort of a promotional insert or something like that they'll want to include into the item, into the box or packaging. So yeah, we see that all the time.
Interesting. And I mean, how do you start to, because I think from like a fulfillment perspective, we start we almost plan all year, right, for peak and holiday season. So, I mean, how do you start to plan and incorporate those types of customizations into your capacity planning? Because some of that stuff might take longer on the packing process or something like that. How do you start to understand what that's going to be and then start to increase capacity as needed?
Yeah, so we have forecasting calls with our clients on a weekly basis throughout the year. There's that old saying, "Christmas in July," and it's real. We start thinking about it probably July, August, and start planning and start staffing in August, September. The great thing about our environment is that there's different areas. So you have inbound and you have outbound, and you have returns processing, which is part of inbound. We're able to move people around to the different areas. And so we start picking up on the inbound side in that July, August, September timeframe as the retailers are bringing in product from wherever their manufacturers are to sell for the holiday season. Mm. And then as volume starts to pick up on outbound, we're moving people from other departments to service those areas. And then even after the holidays, after Christmas, and then returns start picking up. Yeah. Then we're moving people that were an outbound, or they were an inbound in August, September. They were an outbound in October, November, December, and now they're back in the inbound processing returns. So we're just moving people around and planning our work and then working our plan.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting thing because, you start to look at like newer brands and things like that. Maybe they're not accustomed to planning around that or working with the 3PL to come up with that plan with a sufficient amount of time. So, I mean, in your opinion, whether it's from a 3PL perspective or brand perspective, I mean, when is it kind of too late, I guess, in a sense, to start planning and thinking about the holiday and peak season?
When is it too late? Yeah. For us, it's
January 2nd.
What's that?
I said January 2nd.
Yeah, January. Exactly. It's too late after the holidays. We've been successful for the last, 5 or 7 years, holiday seasons, and it's the planning that we do and the extraction of information that we do from our clients. a lot of them aren't thinking about what's happening inside our walls, but we're really good about having those forecasting calls, about getting on the phone with them and asking them for the information and just pulling it from them. I would blow your mind with some of the requests that we get and the rush receipts and the rush this and the rush that. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of our model, though, to be nimble and be flexible and to be helpful at the end of the day.
Interesting. And I'm curious on the forecasting side. What happens, I guess, when you work with brands, or how do you help brands that are maybe newer and don't necessarily have as sophisticated forecasting on their side, or maybe haven't necessarily been through like a full growth holiday or peak season yet? I mean, how are you able to work with them and help them to understand what the potential might be?
Yeah, I think it's the questions that we ask that provoke thought. And at the end of the day, it can be as simple as how much money are you going to be spending on marketing at any given time, and that usually should drive the forecast and demand. If there's certain holidays that are coming up, if you're a lingerie brand and Valentine's Day is coming up, that's an easy one. But if you're handbags or some sort of apparel, women's apparel, Mother's Day or other holidays outside of just the Christmas and Black Friday window. There's holidays throughout the year that drive different sales for different types of business. And we're just good about asking those questions that provoke thought and that in turn give us information that we're able to work with.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think it's great too. I mean, that you're able to help those brands as well start to understand that, especially if they're newer to market or newer to seeing larger types of volume and growth. And, I think if you have a strong partner on the fulfillment side, then it can help you to address those challenges. I mean, certainly, as a brand, welcome explosions in growth and volume, but oftentimes it can be a little stressful to manage and understand how do you handle that. So if you have somebody that's experienced like Boxzooka, right, with you, then I think that can help you to get through those definite challenges. So you mentioned returns in there as well, as returns start to pick up. So how do you see? I mean, especially over the last couple of years, I mean, how has that post-holiday returns type of volume grown or stayed the same? I mean, what has been happening in that area?
For the customers that we have that are, predominantly apparel in so many ways, and then the CPG, well, the apparel has a high returns rate. People buy, two of the same item in two different sizes. They're undoubtedly going to return one. Apparel can run 20 to 30% or more in returns. CPG has a very, very low returns rate. At the end of the day, I don't think returns is going anywhere, but up. You have seen some retailers actually stop offering free returns because it is getting out of hand, and they're trying to look for ways to lower those return rates. But it's part of the business. It's just as important as the outbound for us, because like a lot of 3PLs is one of the gaps I saw where returns get sandbagged and there's piles of packages. And for us, we process returns with the same type of service that we process outbound, because it's important for our brands to get the product back to stock so that it can resell it. And if it sits around, it can get cold from a style standpoint. Yeah. So it's an important part of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, do you see, and how do you, I mean, I guess internally, like how do you shift your resources to be able to do that returns processing? Because I mean, returns is, I mean, you guys, it sounds like you already have, more of I wouldn't say complex, but more touch points in the packing process through specialty packaging and things like that. But returns is a whole nother thing with the inspection and qualifying product. Is it going to go back into inventory or what's the status? How are you able to kind of shift your resources a little bit to be able to handle that kind of influx in post-holiday returns?
That's a great question. One of the things that we're very stringent on is training, and everyone is cross-trained in all of our facilities across all functions. we do have to flex labor from time to time, and we'll hire a temporary or seasonal type workforce.
Okay.
Those folks would never be processing returns. They wouldn't have the level of training. It would always be full-time employees that are part of our staff that are cross-trained, and that's just part of our model is shifting people around to flex up in the different areas that are busier than the other areas. And the beauty of it is that generally speaking, not all the areas are all busy at the exact same time. It'd be very uncommon for everything to be on fire at once. For that week for those couple weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're not going to see a whole lot of returns coming in because sales are kind of low. Right now it's the calm before the storm. So that labor will be shipping orders out at that time, and then later after the holiday volume outbound goes down, that labor is available to shift back over to the return side.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that makes sense. And I love that you're cross training against all those departments. I mean, I think that's the smart way to utilize all those resources and be able to quickly pivot and shift it if needed. So as we're heading into and looking beyond this current holiday season going into 2024, what do you see as kind of the outlook for e-commerce fulfillment in general and overall into the new year?
Well, I think the pie continues to grow. You see retail is brick and mortar retail is suffering in so many ways, in so many areas. Just even right now with the organized retail crime and stores closing up, I think people are turning to the internet more and more every day to do their shopping. If not for the safety, but for the convenience that's always been there. And I just see the market just growing and getting bigger every year. It's an exciting time.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. It'd definitely be interesting to see. And certainly, we do see a lot of retail kind of shutdowns and pullbacks, I think, and a lot of that stuff. So it will be interesting to see how that continues to grow around that. So very interesting to talk to you here, Brendan, and learn about Boxzooka and get some insights into the holiday season as well from a 3PL perspective and brand perspective. So if people are interested in learning more about Boxzooka, maybe from a brand perspective, or maybe they want to tap into that WMS that you mentioned earlier too, what's the best way to do that?
They can send us an email at info@boxzooka.com.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well. So Brendan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.